Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. This is Starters Order 7. And part 2 of our new US schedule building series as part of this tips, tricks, cheats, and tutorials playlist. Um, Part 1, we went over our planning, which looked a little bit like this, but we did add some things. Number 1, I realized that the criterium was in the schedule. It just hadn't been picked because I hadn't picked any races at St. Cloud, because there's a limit to the number of racetracks that you can have on one schedule as well. And I'm not anywhere near that limit, but I also don't want just to be racing a different racetrack every single race. I kind of want to, keep some racetracks that have a lot of sort of good things in them. A little bit of prestige. It's always nice to run at Belmont or at Churchill Downs. It's nice to run at Ascot for me or Aintree. Like, there's certain places, Longchamp in France, I don't really care about running anywhere else. So, there's definitely these certain places. Sha Tin is one, Maidan's one, Tokyo, um, Kanji in Singapore, Kenilworth, South Africa, Randwick and Rosehill in um, in Australia. So there's places. There are places. But this was already in the schedule, so I didn't need to add it manually, which is a shame, but we can go over kind of how that would look anyway. I did add a bunch of races from France on August 13th because we're adding in St. Cloud. So I believe that freed up some other races. There were a couple missing anyway. I don't know why it's taking me so long to get you. But because we were adding St. Cloud, I added in Deauville, the other track that has a lot of races. And so we got a new meeting now in France with some good races, including another grade 1 for a 2-year-old, which I kind of like the idea of doing. So there's a number of little races here which could fit quite nicely in the middle of our schedule. Um, there is a problem, which we do have to go in and edit the file, a feature race file, to show. And that's that the WSB Cape Philly Guineas should be for fillies only. It's in the name. It's not, so I'm going to have to go and change that. That's one of the South African Triple Crown races. Talking of the 2-year-old races, I've got a list of all the 2-year-old grade 1s, and there's 41 in this schedule as it currently stands. And I've got them by country, race course, the name of the race, the distance of the race, and the date of the race. So have everything going out. There's a lot of 6 to 7 furlongs early, a few miles spread in. The only 5 furlong is at Curragh. It's the Darrington Stud, September 13th. We move up then to a mile, 110 yards. Then we get our 2 5 furlong, 110 yards later on in the season, Golden Gift, and in the Breeders' Cup. And we've got the Hopeful at a mile 2 at Nakayama, and we got the Criterium, which was in the schedule, and we've put that in October. I'm not sure exactly where these races are supposed to be, but we've had to move some about. But yeah, 41 grade 1s for 2-year-olds. You should see a lot more development there, a lot more testing there, and I think that's kind of cool. And then we've got our Triple Crown races, which I have added a move to these dates, and that's kind of where they sit in the schedule right now. So New Zealand, very early on in the season, moving to right after the US, and Canada the day after the US. Then is France. The day after France is Australia. And then pretty much the day after that is the South African. And so, like I say, that's why I realized that the fillies race isn't there. So it's not really a part of the Triple Crown. Like, both these are split, but I don't think this is men only. And so the fillies race doesn't count. That's why we haven't got the Kentucky Oaks or etc. etc. Like, a lot of these have female equivalents, 1,000 guineas, etc. Like, we're not including those in the list because everybody can run all these races apart from these two, which are just both, um, you know, they are actually delineated for colts and for fillies. But we do then, as I say, have South Africa in there because they were already in the schedule. I just needed to move them a little bit. They were all pretty much, I think, within a week. I believe the Classic and the Derby were on the same day. Yeah, I don't know why I'm saying. I think they were. I can tell here they were both on March 3rd, and the Guineas were on the 6th. So I decided to go ahead and spread those out. And because of their distances, I tied them in exactly with France and Australia. So a little bit busier there. The rest are the same. So this is kind of a rough breakdown of the year and the races we've got at different points of the year. So just adding in, I've had a request as well to take a look at Japan. I'm just going to go JP for Japan. So I'm going to want to look that up and build that out and see if that fits in our schedule and where in our schedule that would fit. And then not really a lot of feedback on this, but again, this isn't something I'm going to set up too much apart from, and I'm going to change a few more races into 3-year-old races and build out even more. Because I think that kind of makes sense to me. I've got 6 here. I'm gonna remove the Asian stayers because it doesn't need to be there. But yeah, we got 6 races for sprinters, 6 races for milers. I've got my 4-year-old World Cup Triple Crown. We just need to make sure we're renaming that in both files, the feature race file and in the schedule file itself. And then we got our 4-year-old stayers, which is 6 races there. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think they're all pretty good and offer things. And like I say, I think moving the raffles, the 4-year-old and up, the Everest 4-year-old and up, Chairman Sprint, Saudi Sprint, they all kind of make sense to me. I don't mind doing that. So a little bit of editing to do on these races, a little bit of research on Japan, and then we can add those in if they're not part of this schedule, which I think they might be. But if they're not, then we're going to have to add those in manually. And we need to change this Cape Philly Guineas to female only. So there's a lot to go to, but just little updates there about the amount of grade 1s that we've got for 2-year-olds, adding in South Africa, a request to also add in Japan, and just a few more races to bulk out the 4-year-old seasons at different distances. And yeah, I think we're pretty good there then. So buckle in. We've got some difficult work to do, but I'm going to start off with the easy thing, and that's the Japanese Triple Crown. And okay, the first thing I'm going to do is head to Wikipedia because we do like Wikipedia. Does kind of help us out. So just going to take little screenshots. This is what I'm seeing. So you can see the classics, 3-year-olds. Got 2 filly races, which we don't really count. But the 3 we're going to be looking at then are going to be the Satsuki Show. There's going to be the Tokyo Yushun and the Kika Show. Now, these are in meters, so we do have to convert those over. But, yeah, that's not going to be too bad to do. So if I just look at these in order, I at least have a month to look for, and we'll be able to find them. So I believe 2,000 meters is what, 1.25 miles. Okay, so that's 1, 2, and then I'm guessing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's 10 furlongs. Yeah, I thought my calculations were off there. It wasn't making sense, but no. So the Satsuki show should be 10 furlongs, which is 1 mile 2. It's sometime in April. And if we're opening up with 1 mile 2, then it's got to come near the end of the year. This might be October to November. This might be somewhere in here. When's 1 mile 2 fit with UK Ireland? End of August? I don't mind that. So let's pencil this in somewhere around August 25th. Yeah, somewhere around August 25th, I think works for me. Um, so then next up is the Tokyo Yushun, which is 24, which should be 12, which is 1 mile 4. That is May or early June. So it might be put in as May in the schedule, so that'll help us find us there. And then kind of want 2 weeks normally, don't I? So that'll be kind of September the 8th, but that puts us right in the derbies. So that's not bad, because that just gives us a couple extra days. Yeah, like 2 weeks, 2 days after August 25th should be September 10th. That puts us September 8th for the derby, the Irish derby on the 9th, and then the Yusun on the 10th. That's fine. And then that gives us a little bit here for the Kika show, which is 3,000 meters. 1.7, 1.8. 1.8 will be 2 meters. I think it's 1.7. I feel good about 1.7. That's in October, and that would put us again. We could keep that in October, around October 10th. Now this one's Kyoto, and I believe these are both Tokyo. Yes, they are. Okay. So cool. We've got all our internet research done. So I'm gonna do a little floating screenshot there, so I can keep this in mind. And then we can try and find these races. So April, 1 mile 2. Do we have Japanese races in here? And if so, is this one? There it is. So we've got April 15th. So let me get April 15th. So sweet. That is in, so we don't have to create it, we just have to move it. But that's the first leg of the Triple Crown then. And then into May in Japan. We got some Japanese meeting, but there is the Tokyo Yushin. So that's on the 7th of May in the schedule. And then we got October, I think is a mile 7. It might be listed as 2 miles, but I think it's a mile 7. It's right there. It is a mile 7 at Kyoto. So cool. They're all on the schedule. So we're just changing the dates in the schedule editor, which is good because we also need to go back to the schedule editor to set up prep races, which I didn't go over because it's a bit more complicated and it's going to take more time. But that is fine. So 16th of November. So at least now we know what we're looking for. And I know where these are now, so I don't need to add them on the end there. We keep the syntax the same. It's in the right place. And to be honest with you, it's pretty much in line. It's just a little bit later. It's not really much later, but it's a little bit later. So I figure that's where they all finish. Kind of. Yeah, this should be... I mean, really, this is September because it's August to October, so September's the midpoint. And this is a little bit back on them. So just a vague general representation for me to see. I think that makes sense. So these are all June, July. Like I say, these are September there. We're May into June. Just so it makes sense for me. Looking at that March into April. Yep. That's fine. That's fine. So cool. So I definitely need to remember what I'm changing. Adding these all onto a list. I'm going to copy this up here because this becomes our list of actual changes. These don't need to be changed. So I can remove those. We've talked about those. And then we're going to need to do some changes here. See, everything up here needs to be changed. Cool. That puts us in a very nice place. Gives me a list to work from. So when I'm in the editor or in the schedule file and in the feature race file, I know what I'm working from. So we're going to get our prep together, which isn't too bad because we're pretty much done with our prep, which is really nice. So I'm going to move to other view. So I've got this list and we can still have the edit. Or do I want to do it this way? Probably not. I'm trying to think which way I like to do this. I want to do it in a new... instant. I just can't remember exactly how I do that. So I think I'm going to cheat and use Notepad. I only really need this information. Make sure everything lines up so I can just read it quicker. And that should be in there because those are what we're moving in the schedule. And those are there. Cool. And actually, it'll make sense just to screenshot. And then I don't need that anymore. And I've got this floating window I can pull in whenever I need, which allows me to edit in this one because that's what we're going to start by doing. So give me a moment. Okay, I think we're going to start with the schedule for starters orders. So I'm gonna go in. Well, sorry, not the schedule. I'm gonna go in for the feature races. So I'm gonna go into my modded folder because it's the modded feature races I want, and it's the feature races. Yeah, flat because this is America. I thought I was looking at jumps then. So that's what this looks like. It's gonna be a bit of a pain, but so be it. We can keep this. Yeah, you've got most of the things. So as long as I'm up here, you'll see the screenshot, right? Yeah. In fact, I'm gonna put it down in this corner because that way I can read stuff that's up top. So we're doing the bottom things first. So the first thing I want to do is not open up America at all, am I? Because these are the Americans. Okay, so that's lesson one. Make sure you open up the right thing. So in my modded file, I'm going to go to the first one. So I know this is South Africa. So SA for South Africa. Feature race is flat. We close down that one. And so now we're going to look for WSB, not the Matchroom, not the Diana. We're looking for the Cape Phillies. So that's Cape Merchants, Cape Phillies, Guineas. This is the one we want. And so exactly the same as up here. I was hoping there'd be a little one all right here. At the end, we've got the sex is FM. This is going to turn this race into a race where it's split by the sex of the horse for only fillies and mares. So young females and old females. The thing is, this is a 3-year-old race, which is only going to be fillies. There aren't going to be any mares. So we can take that off and just do fillies. That's going to be an issue. Okay, I don't know why that just... Okay. I think something was happening in OBS when I was changing some of that. But cool. So now we can save that. That has been saved. And we've added the condition here that this is only going to be a fillies race. So as you can see, the way these are written, we've got a name file, and that's going to be the name that appears. This is very important, how you syntax it, how you spell it, how you capitalize it, everything about this name. Because it needs to identically match what's in the schedule file. Otherwise, that race will either not appear or you might get a crash. It's going to ask you for the race course. Again, you're going to have to get the name of the race course exactly correct. And also, which of the surfaces. There's jumps and flats, there's turf and dirt, and then there's also numbers if they've got more than one turf course, turf 1, turf 2. So you need to be careful of that. The month that it's usually run, when you go into the schedule editor, this is the month that you are going to see it under. The prize, how much it is if you win this race, or the total prize fund for the race. So this is what you're going to see on the side. This is in British pounds, I believe. So do your conversions if you want to have certain dollar amounts, or just trial and error it. The distance is in furlongs. This is 8 furlongs. This is a mile. That is correct. The race tag. This is going to be a number of things. Listed handicap, a listed race, a grade 3, a grade 2. This is a grade 1. But yeah, there's a lot of different ones there. Force field, you can force the number. So this always will have a small field. You can also put a number in here to force it to have at least a certain number, which the only one I can really think of right now is going to be US flat. You can see here they force a field to have a fixed size of 20. And then conditions or any other conditions that they have. And also the age, the sex, like we've just gone through, the fact that we're limiting this to female only. So that now should be saved. So next up, I'm going to open up Saudi Arabia. And again, we're going to open up the feature races here. And we're just going to look for the Saudi Sprint. And all we're going to do here is change this 3-year-old and up to 4-year-old and up and save that. That's the change that we want to do to make that for 4-year-olds and older only. Then we need to go to Shatin. And so Shatin is Hong Kong. We're going to open up this one. Chairman's Sprint Prize. There's probably an apostrophe in there. There is indeed. And again, this 3-year-old and up race is going to become a 4-year-old and up race. So we're building more of a 4-year-old schedule into this as well. Make it a little more interesting. The Everest at Randwick. That's the Australian big money race. Make sure you're opening up flats. Also, if you're changing sponsorship, you can just rename here to whatever sponsorship you want. You can take Bentley out of the St. Ledger, for example. The Tab Everest can be the Everest Bet 365. You can take all these out, but make sure if you're doing any name changes, again, if you're changing any names in the feature race or the schedule, you have to do it in the other. You need to do it in both of them, schedule and the feature races. Otherwise, it will not work. So just put that out there. 3-year-old and up. No, thank you. This is now a 4-year-old race. Raffles at Kranji. So that is going to be Singapore. Feature race is flat. Yeah, raffles. Typing's hard, you guys. So 4-year-old and up. We save that one. And then it's back to Saudi, which is the second one we did. And now we're renaming a name. So this is now where it becomes difficult. And everything I've just told you This is it. We're taking the Saudi Cup and we are renaming it the Saudi World Cup because we've got the Pegasus World Cup and we've got the Dubai World Cup. In the middle of our trio is the Saudi Cup. So I'm going to call it the Saudi World Cup. And I'm going to make that a World Cup trio. 2 at a mile 1, 1 at a mile 2. I think that's fair. Everything else about it is good. So now we've done that, we really need to go into here and find our schedule that we've already built. And this is what it looks like. And again, all we need to change here now is going to be the name. So we need to find the Saudi Cup and rename it to the Saudi World Cup. It's going to take all the other information from that feature race file we just done. All this tells us is what the date in the schedule is, what's the race course it's run at, and the name of the race. Because you might have there's quite a few QE2 Cups. There's a couple of hopefuls. There's etc. etc. Races named the same. So it's going to have those, and if it does have any prep races, it's going to have those in here as well. But we're not going to add those manually because that can go wrong. We're going to add those in the schedule editor later. So for now, all of these, all I need to do is find the Saudi Cup, and we're just renaming this the Saudi World Cup. That's exactly how it looks in here. We can also just, if you're worried about it, copy and paste it to make sure. So we've made sure those two are exactly the same for the name change. We've done that. That's fine. The Raffles Cup is now 4 years of age and up. The Everest is 4 years of age and up. Yep. The Chairman Sprint Prize is 4-year-old and up. Then back to this, the Saudi Sprint is also 4 years and up. We reassigned the WSB Cape Fillies Guineas to just be for fillies. Yes. I am going to want to just find a couple of these. Yeah, see, for 3-year-olds, it just needs to be fillies, not mares, because mares can't go in it. Okay. My question now. I don't know why female, male. No, what I'm looking for is colts. What I'm looking for is colts. Okay. So there doesn't seem to be any. So I'm going to search for. Yeah, the Goten is for fillies. The betting Goten is not. Okay. Breeders Guineas. East Cape Guineas. Yeah, we're not looking for any of these Winter Guineas, Daisy Fillies. Yeah, so I believe it is just this one. So yeah, there's no restrictions. So this is the first leg of the Triple Crown, and this is just the filly equivalent, like so many Triple Crowns have. So we don't need to make that one for males, one for females, like the French Triple Crown first leg. That's all fine. Yeah, my jockeys. I love how simple it used to be. Just Juan Hernandez or Chris Landros, if I can't get Calvin riding, and then I'll go to Franco Mena if they're not available. And then for my new UK save, I've just got tier lists. so I can always get the best jockey. We're trying to take it a little more seriously. But okay, that's good. So we've got all those set up, which means I can now open this back up, get rid of the screenshot, and go into the schedule editor again. And we'll see if it loads. And in fact, I'm going to reload the game just to kind of make sure there's no holdover data for whatever reason from the other one. Ah, yes, no. Okay, so I do need to remember to switch out the databases. I'm just going to rename that and rename that because this is what we're working from to create. Yeah, this is what we're doing to create all that. And so pretty much we need to replace because all the stuff that we've just done was done in that folder. And so not the one. So yeah, now you've made the changes, you need to copy again from your mods into a DB modded folder here or elsewhere, just so that you can edit the schedule without the game crashing. So now we've done that, we've renamed them, we've copied the files over, that's all good. So now when we click on schedule editor, it's going to pull from that DB file, which is the one that we've just edited, a copy of the one we've just edited. We're going to get our schedule edited. No, it shouldn't crash. And now we can check some of these changes as well. Let me move that, excuse me, over on that side. So let's just go, for example, to Singapore. So I know there aren't that many races. And we can see the Raffles Cup. And it's set for 3 years and older. Okay. Okay. What did I change them in? Did I change them in here and not go into the modded? Because if I did, I just changed default stuff and that wouldn't be amazing. Nope. So that's normal. That's also 3-year-olds and up. Was I smart earlier and dumb just now, and I changed the ones in here, and then I overwrote from our mods? Did I just undo everything? I think I might have. I think I might have. Okay. Give me a minute to figure this out. Okay. I've gone ahead and remade all those changes in this folder, the modded version of this folder. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to copy this over and overwrite the mod folder, which the game, when it's using things, will actually be in. Everything will be in here. So all those changes are in the mods folder ready to play, but for schedule editing, we need a copy of that folder here. And we can go back to our default folder, which is currently renamed DBX, just to keep it safe. So this is default information. This is modded information for schedule editing. This is the modded information the game will play. So now US, we did the Saudi World Cup change in here, so that should be fine. South Africa. The WSB Cape Phillies Guineas is now female only. Beautiful. Beautiful. Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Sprint is now 4 years of age and up. The Saudi World Cup is now named the Saudi World Cup instead of just the Saudi Cup. Brilliant. It's kind of simple. Once you know what you're doing, once you've got a little idea, it's tough to mess up unless you're like editing great swathes of information manually. And anybody that's ever done coding or something will tell you like the wrong syntax, the wrong kind of missing a bracket, adding a bracket, a random comma, just everything can break. But so far, we're 3 for 3. So next up was Shatin, and that is the sprint prize being a 4-year-old. We've got that. Australia for the Everest. You can see I'm not going to certain race courses. The Tab Everest. It's tough to see the Tab Everest when everything is sponsored by the damn company. Why am I not seeing this? There it is. It's right there. 4-year-old and up. Brilliant. We went to Singapore, right? So we checked Singapore, we checked Randwick, we checked Sha Tin, we checked the Tuat Abdul Aziz, and we checked South Africa. So Kranji Mile, nope, the Raffles Cup 4v4. Okay, so all those took. That's all brilliant. The next thing we need to look at is Japan and figure out where are these moving to again. So Satsuki Show is on its own. There, that's fine. We can take that out. The Tokyo Yushin is leg 2. We'll take that out. I'm also taking out the Victoria Mile, I think. I'll take out the Victoria Mile to include with it. We need to remember that. That's the reason why that's there. I can't move the February from February, can I? Can I take out something else? Can I take out something else from Tokyo? The tennis show, I kind of want to take what it is. The Asuda Kinen is on its own. Beautiful. I'll take that out. Okay. I just want extra races to put with the Triple Crown races, just so there's, a couple of races there. And then the Kika show should be here. And there's a few here, so I'll take out the Kika show. And the Queen Elizabeth. Okay. So we need to go to August 25th then and find a way to make this work. Rather than do that, we'll just go up to August 25th. There's a few here. Why are we missing something on the 24th? Because we didn't have anything there. Yeah, it's simpler rather than taking something out and adding in. I can just use the 24th. So this would be the Satsuki. Oh. In this game, that's at Nakayama. In this game, it's at Nakayama. What else can I do? What else can I take? Is there another thing from Nakayama? Is that just going to be on its own? That's just going to be on its own. Okay. So that's going to be 24th of August. I'm going to rename that in my file. 24th. Which is perfectly fine. And then September 10th. Because we got the Irish Free Derby here. And we got the Guineas in September. Why we got them in September? Hold on. What have I got on the 8th of August? This is why you test, people. This is why you test. I don't have anything. Do I have the Derby on the 8th of October? So if I got these here, on the 8th of October, I've got the St. Ledger. I don't know where the Derby is. Well, we're going to have to go back and fix Britain. That was something we got wrong. This is where we test, where we go back over and over again. Okay. So be it. September 10th. In that case. I can take those out. It's going to bug out slightly, but I can get that race back here, probably. No, it's going to want to pull it out. Okay. How about if we completely take them out? It's only a couple of condition races. I don't care about them, really. So that gives me the space here. That's fine. And then on the 10th, we got 3 meetings. Got a bunch of low handicaps or a bunch of low conditions. I'm going to take out the handicaps. And then this is what the Tokyo Yushin. We're going to add that in. We're going to put the Asuda Keen in before it. And then I'm guessing the Victoria Mile in before that. So we got a little meeting built around this race, which is okay. Then I got the QE Cup and the Kikua Show to go in October. Let's go October 10th. Find a nice place for it. Yeah, we're just going to bounce this meeting at Parks. I think that's fine. So, Queen Elizabeth Cup. On the 10th, which is kind of fitting because at Keeneland we got the QE2 Challenge Cup and we got the Queen Elizabeth Cup in Japan the same day now. And then that massive 1 mile 7 race there. So cool, we've got that figured out. UK, we're not going to a couple of race courses because there's only one race at those race courses. So the St. Ledger was right. on October the 8th. That's fine. And then we were supposed to have the Derby. Okay, that's really interesting. So that should have been on September 8th. So yeah, I'm just gonna pull this entire meeting and go to September 8th. I'm gonna build this in. So we're gonna have the Derby, we're gonna have the Oaks just before it. And the Coronation Cup we also took out. Let's make that the last race of the day. So Oaks, Derby, Coronation Cup all set up on the 8th, which means August 8th should be a meeting here. So we can get rid of the conditions at Belmont and add in the guineas. So 1,000 and 2,000 both. Huh. 2,000s for Colt only. 3,000s for filly only. I was not aware. Maybe that's like that in real life. Maybe it's not. But that doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna make sure that we're aware of it in our file. Okay, that's all good. Now it's tests. Not tests. Now it's prep races. This is where it gets difficult. So all the data has been edited and should be in the right place now. It should be in the right place. Sometimes it's not, but it should be in the right place. We'll test that later. But because we got something working here right now, I'm going to name this as test. Save. It did save. It didn't crash. That's a great sign. We go out, we come back in, we load test, make sure it's all properly aligned. And now comes the bit that I'm not entirely comfortable with doing, but we got to do. So I'm going to go down to the last thing in the schedule then, October 10th, that we need to link. And it's going to be this Kikuka show. So to click or edit a prep race, we click here. Then we go find the race that it's actually a prep race of. Oh, that's a prep race of it. So the Kikika show, it should be the Tokyo Yushin feeds into this. So this is step 3. We're adding as a prep race, step 2. So it should add here. Click on the race name in the schedule table. Oh, not in here. Okay, this is why it doesn't work very well for me, because I don't read instructions. Okay. Let's go September 10th. Strange to do it this way, I guess, but so it's just this first part of the name. You can see what it highlights. There you go. So we've just added the Yushin as a prep race for the Kika show. So if you run well at the Ocean, it's going to tell you, it's going to come up after the race with that jockey feedback saying, hey, why don't you run in? This is how prep races work. Also, for the game breds, it's going to give them a pathway. If they like to run one and they do well, especially if they win, they're more likely to complete the trio. So I'm doing this for all our Triple Crowns for our 3-year-olds. I'm also setting up for all those races that we've bunched together for the 4-year-olds, the World Cup, the Sprinters 6, the Mile 6, and the Stayers 6, as I'm going to be calling them. And I think I'm going to link them all as sixes. So each one in order is going to feed into the others. So that's absolutely fine. And again, in the game, it's going to make sure that we're seeing more and more of those horses complete those sets of races from the game's point of view, but also when we do well, we're going to get reminded this is next. So it's a nice little one. So now we got the Yushin in here. I can click here, and now we got the Yushin. Now all I'm going to do is go up and find the Satsuki show on the 24th of August. It is there. Beautiful. If we wanted to add any prep races for the show, we could, but that's Japan done. That is Japan done. So now I'm going to go all the way back to October 9th, which doesn't take that much time. You can scroll if it's easier for you. But now we're going to build this. So the St. Ledger is fed into. It's a couple of days too early. By the Derby. And then the Derby is going to be fed into by both of these Guineas races, because is this another one? Is this split Colt fillies? No. Okay, it's not split. I'm still going to do it just because they're both there. And, you know, if a filly does win the 1,000 guineas instead of the 2,000, then she should be going on to run the Irish Derby and Irish St. Ledger anyway. I don't think that's like super crazy to expect and want to happen. So where are we now? October 8th. So now we've got the St. Ledger here. And we're going to move on to the Derby. That's not what you wanted to do. That's not what you want to do. Yeah, be careful. Don't think too far ahead. Take it step by step. Might be a bit tedious, but this is what we're doing. So the St. Ledger is fed into by the Derby. Then the Derby is being fed into by the Guineas. I've done it again. I've done it again. The Derby is fed into by the Guineas. Now, the other thing you could do is you could say, well, if an Irish horse wins one of these, or if any horse wins one of these, like, why aren't they also, like, put in a prep race for the British Derby? And the winners of this, we could put into the Irish Derby. You can kind of do a bunch of things. It doesn't have to be realistic. It doesn't have to really make sense. It can just be whatever pathway you want. Just think of it as whatever horse wins X race, is there a race you think they should be running next, like all the time? If so, you can add a prep race for it. So to save on time and sanity, I'm going to go add all these in and we'll come back when it's done, because then it'll be time to test the schedule and take a look at it. Okay, so I think I've done them all. Linked everything together as good as I could. And so I'm saving this under a new folder called prepped, or a new schedule, sorry, called prepped. So I've got the old schedule, which was a good working schedule, which I think you'll see is the result of quite a lot. So this is basically the one that comes as started. That's the base. Then I went through all these different schedules, 14 of them in general, just iterations, little changes. When something didn't look right, save it, back out, go back in, and do to the next iteration until we got to the first hilltop file, which is kind of our pinnacle at the top of the hill. And then to make changes here, I went through on this one. So A, B, then add in the Canadians. The Canadians and the French. The Canadians, the French. Oh, sorry. Canada, New Zealand. Canada, New Zealand, France. Canada, New Zealand, France, Australia. Little extras in there as well. One for then only had the UK left to do. Didn't really work, so I had to do the UK again. Didn't really work, so I had to do the UK again. Then some bug fixing. We had triple X. We had XXXXXX. Then we had yes, okay, yes, okay. Yes, yes, yes. And then that finally becomes the hilltop one. Then we've used that to build and get a little test one that we did as our first iteration. And now we're finally at the stage for being prepped. So I don't really need the test one. I'm going to keep the test one up, but prep's the one we're going to use. That being said, what we now need to do is I'm going to rename this back to modded and rename this back to normal. So this is the one the game's looking for with the extra information. This is going to make sure the game doesn't crash. This should just be the same as this file, but it's just conveniently located in the folder for schedule editing like we just did. I'm going to jump out of that. After I've done any editing, any messing about, 100%, I'm just here to restart. I'm not wanting to do anything kind of crazy. We're going to choose our mod folder, the started folder. This is a US save. And so now this is going to go, this was the old one. Just going to go one up. Choose slot 6. I'm just going to go one season because I'm just checking the season. You can see we got the old one. We got the test in the middle. One we're choosing is prepped. Does this crash? That's step 1. It shouldn't do. It shouldn't take very long because it is only one season of simulation. And there it goes. There it starts. So, yeah, we'll just let this trickle on. And then I'm going to go through. I'm going to check all the races. I'm going to check, are all the ones that we changed from 4-year-olds, from 3-year-old up to 4-year-old up? Is the Saudi World Cup renamed? Is the fillies race in South Africa, is that actually only for fillies now? And then all the Triple Crown races, are all the prep set up? Are they actually feeding into each other? So when I click on a prep race, I should be able to follow through. When I click on the Kentucky Derby, it shows me that the Preakness is one of the ones that I should go for next. If I click on the Preakness, it shows me the Belmont. Does that work for all of those Triple Crown races? Because if it does, the only thing left to do is to link all the 4-year-old races together, which again, I will be doing kind of off camera. But I wanted to show that feature race editing, kind of what that looks like, how that works. There will be a more in-depth feature race editor video going up soon. So I think I want to actually show you a little more in-depth and a list of all the conditions that I've kind of pulled from the forums and the manual and everything else for the game, so that you can know exactly what arguments you can put in there and how it's completely formatted. But like the little bit of that was shown, a little bit of editing in general, just turning from 3-year-olds to 4-year-olds, to adding as a filly only race, and how you would do for fillies and mares, or for colts and stallions, or for geldings, for anything in between. Yeah, I feel that's a good grounding in a lot of ways. And like I said, this is step 2 in building the schedule. So once it gets to this point, you'll see it does, that red bar does stop. It's either going to crash or it's actually done. The bar ends there for some reason. And you can see it didn't crash. The bar didn't end there. So I'm just going to ignore everything else. I'm going into here. So if I scroll back up to the top, get my things going here. So we'll check the fillies later. So yeah, okay, that's fine. February 28th should be the first major change that we actually made. So the Saudi Sprint is for 4-year-olds and up, and the Saudi Cup is now renamed the Saudi World Cup. So right now there's no prep races, but when we get done with it, that will be a prep race thing. So yeah, 4-year-olds and up, you can see the prep race. Basically, it's the progression here. So you can see once you've done the Saudi Sprint, you can do some of these. Now, 3-year-old up, 3-year-old up, and this is 4-year-old up. So you could go and change some of that stuff, but we didn't need to. So our 2 Saudi races are great. Let's go to April 28th. I was going to say it might take a little time, but it's not actually going to take that much time. So April 28th. So the Chairman Sprint Prize is now a 4-year-old and up. Cool. Now we're on to October. No, we're not. Now we're on to August. August 25th. No, we didn't change anything. October 21st. October 21st. So the Everest, instead of 3-year-old, is now a 4-year-old. Then right at the back end, November 24th, at Cranji, the Raffles Cup is 4-year-old. So all those changes worked. All of those changes worked. So now let me go ahead and check here. Oh my god, it's bugging out. Why is it bugging out? Anybody please tell me why it's bugging out? I don't know. Okay. Let's get this. Somewhere like that, I guess. That kind of works. Let me just edit this down so it doesn't take up the entire screen. Love. So, there we go. I've now got these races in here to check. So, we're going to start at the beginning. So, March 13th. So, the Tarzino, I click on this, so it should have prep race for. There should be a prep race for Windsor Park Plate. It's set up for the Windsor Park Plate. Now, I also think that the game may add their own in. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it's got to go up this side somewhere, hasn't it? So it's got the Livermore Classic, which is their next rate. I think it's because Windsor Park has Livermore as its. So I think it may link in that way, because I didn't add more than just the Windsor Park. Yeah, I added Tarzino into Windsor Park, so Windsor Park feeds into other stuff, or it feeds into the Livermore Classic, which then feeds into other stuff, or the game's just recommending it does. Either way, I'm fine. At least it links these together. So Windsor Park goes into Livermore. Very happy with that. And again, that's an easy way for us to check, has anyone won it? Because New Latin, Burnhill, and Scarborough Lily. So we got 3 different winners this year. So easy way for us to check. And then, of course, we got the one we really don't need to check, which is Kentucky Derby, Gilly, Tony Way, Point North. But they're all linked together. That is fine. Next up, we've got Canada. So we start with the Queen Plate. That links into the Prince of Wales. And that leads into the Breeders' Stakes. So we've linked all those prep races together correctly as well. June 20th. The pool. Into the Jockey Club. Into the Grand Prix. Leash. Same way. Everything good. Nobody's getting more than one. Absolutely fine. Yeah. That's fine. Those both open. So it's only the first leg there. And as I say, I've got Colts and Fillies. And also we got the UK, which is set up as Colts and Fillies. I never checked Ireland. Or did I check Ireland? I think I may have checked Ireland. That's fine. The next day is going to give us the Randwick, which goes into the Rosehill Guineas, which goes into the Australian Derby. Those are all set up correctly. Skip a day. And then we've got the Fillies Guineas, which is 4 fillies, and we can only book fillies. That does lead into the Classic and the Derby. And the main one is the Cape Gillies, which is just open. Anybody can run in this one, which runs into the Classic and the Derby. I think that's our first double winner. Ibiza Sunset. Interesting. That's cool. And you can also see once we get to the Derby, it's going to tell us, Breeders' Cup Turf, which is also a mile 4. And then the Pegasus World Cup Turf, which hasn't been run yet, but it gives you the date if you want to look at it. So, yeah, we can kind of see that. Yeah, I'm good on that. So, August 8th. And this will be the start of the British. So, the 1,000 is for fillies, leads into the Derby and St. Ledger. The 2,000 is for colts, leads into the Derby and St. Ledger. Ibiza Sunset is definitely the main kind of mile 6 horse in this save. The Tatsales 1,000 leads into the Irish Derby. Irish St. Ledger is for fillies, and this is for colts and fillies. So yeah, this is open. This isn't split like the British Guineas is for some reason. But we can decide to do that if we want to. We can decide to do that if we want to, but it leads into, again, the Irish St. Leger and the Irish Derby. Point North is a horse that won those last year. I got a bit confused when it said 4-year-old for the horse, but yeah. So that's fine. And then the last one on our schedule is August 24th. The Satsuki Show, won by Tombolina, leads into the Tokyo Yushin, won by Dance Lively, and the Kikuka Show, won by Ozzy Ardiles. Okay. The Argentinian football manager is now a Japanese horse. Brilliant. Okay, so those are all linked. Okay. Those are all linked. Okay, so all the changes we worked through and did, they were all correct. Everything worked out. A change of dates, that's a simple one. The prep races, once you figure out how to do them, fairly simple. But again, anything in the schedule editor can be a little finicky. And the changing the Cape Philly Guineas to Phillies only has made sense. 100%. We did that. And we renamed the Saudi Cup into the Saudi World Cup. So we have that sort of triple crown to go. So really it's linking all of these. So linking these six, these three, and these six. So I need to go back and do that so I can just save this game. I can see if any of those horses are good later on. What do I need to do here? I need to do this. So again, take the default data, rename it to something. There we go. So I've renamed the default data folder into DBX. That modded version we've got is now back on the DB. We're not making like feature race. We're not making feature race edits. We're only changing the schedule now to link races. So we don't need to then make sure that this folder is fully updated. I'm going to kill that just. I don't think any data's pulled that early, but just in case and just to have it there, I'm going to do that. So that's our new save. That's the old version. This is the new version. Fully tested different things. I do like just make sure that has the starting mod there, even though it doesn't need to be. So that's prepped. And then we need to go through and book these. So I'm going to do them all as one in order. So again, I'm going to start with my sprint races. And so this is what the Hong Kong sprint. So it has no prep races right now. And then again, we're just going to go backward through the schedule. We're going to find the next one, which is the Everest on October 21st. And we're going to add that. Then we're going to open up this for prep races. We're all the way down to June 21st. And then we're going to add in the Diamond Jubilee at Ascot as a prep race for the Everest. Then we can select the Diamond Jubilee. We're going to April 28th, I believe. And adding in the chairman's sprint prize. Opening up that one. Going to, what, March 25th? And adding in the Takamatsunomiya Kinen. That's way too difficult for me to pronounce quickly. That doesn't roll off my tongue. And then setting up the Saudi sprint in February as a prep race for that. So now, when we go into the game after recreating everything, we should see the Saudi sprint. That should leave into the Takakinen, then into the Sprint Prize, the Diamond Jubilee, into the Everest, and finally the Hong Kong sprint at the end of the year. One thing I'm not really sure about that I might want to change, I might put the Everest right at the end of the schedule. I might put that. I might swap those around. Hong Kong sprint, then leading into the Everest, because that's the big money race. And so at the end of the year, that can be kind of the showpiece somewhere around Christmas. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, we have set this up. So that's our sprinters list all done. And again, I'm just going to go through and do all of the others. So I'll be back when they're all done and we're ready to save and go test. Okay. So that's all taken care of. I feel pretty good about it. I will. I will say there were some changes. Not a crazy amount, but just enough. So the changes I made were, this was not actually in March as I had listed. I think it was March, because we moved the Japanese Triple Crown races, and this is one of the ones we took out to build a meeting in September with. So I had to reorganize that and do that. Um, I remember that we used to have this on the 3rd of January. I hadn't updated my files, which is why you always update. But we'd move this later on because January 3rd's too early to run sometimes. So, especially in that first season. So January 14th was the place I'd ended up putting this. So I've adjusted those two. And then I made a decision that we were going to move the Everest from October onto Christmas Day. I've got one race in South Africa that I'd already put on Christmas, just so there was a race. I decided that, Southern Hemisphere is probably going to be a nice time to race over Christmas anyway. So I decided, why not? We'd put this meeting in there. So the Everest plus, I think the three-year-old only races that were in October are now on Christmas Day. And that old meeting, I think, had 7 races or 6. It now has either 2 or 3, which were the 3-year-olds and ups. I think there's 2 3-year-olds and ups on October 28th or whatever it was. And I say the 3-year-old only, and this 4-year-old and up grand feature race, Everest, is the main attraction on Christmas Day. So I built my own kind of meeting there. So we now need to go build. It's the schedule that's done. And again, I'm going to do 1 year. I'm only going to do 1 year. And I'll come back when that's done. We can check, make sure the feature races all flow correctly. We don't need to edit the schedule anymore. And once that's done, I'll simulate through 10 seasons and actually get, everything set up for our new flat racing schedule, which it's going to be exciting. It's going to be weird, but it's going to be exciting. I'm going to pull over a bunch of horses from the current flat schedule. Going to make sure they're all on a list so I can bring them all over. I'm figuring out some of the breeding stuff we've already done, and just get everything set up to the point where I feel pretty happy. So probably just the end of the current season that we're running through in the flats, and then we'll move to this new schedule, which will be more intensive. So that's the plan. Okay, we're just about there, so wait for the game to load it in. Beautiful. Yeah. We try and make sure everything's set up correctly, but sometimes it's not. So I guess I just probably did not select the mod folder when I was creating the game. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's what it was, and it couldn't find the feature races from within that mod folder, and so it didn't work. And so we're trying again now, but that's why we do a 1 year instead of a 10-year. Give ourselves a chance to quickly test and make sure everything is good before we run the 10-year simulation, which does take a long time. Yeah. We want to do that because when we're starting a new save, I like to have a lot of good game breds to breed from, but also a good number of horses that are competitive and just like a living, breathing world that we're moving into. So, yeah. But we don't want to do that before we fully tested. And like we just saw, we could have spent like 15, 20 minutes waiting for that game to be created and then find out that we didn't select the mod folder and it basically couldn't find all the races in the schedule, so it just skipped them. And, we've probably got like 20 meetings across the entire year instead of the probably 500 to 600 that actually are there. So, good thing is this is nearly done. It's going to stop right about there. It's going to wait a few seconds. It finishes up what it's doing. It's going to let us into the game. We can check the diary, make sure that issue's been resolved. And bang, it has. We've got all our dates. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I kind of want to get these back up, right? Yes, let me pull these up so I got something to work from. And again, it's just like the first race in each. So we're going to start with the Hong Kong Mile then. On the 14th of January, we already went over it, but the Hong Kong Classic Mile, sorry, that leads into the February, the Queen Anne. You can see the way they're stacked here. I actually think this only leads into the February, but the February leads in the Queen Anne, which leads in. So February, Queen Anne, Victoria Mile, Raffles Cup, and then the Hong Kong Mile at the end. So La Ronde, Lady Torfan, Little Rot, Freelancer, Knock Cross. Beautiful. So we can kind of keep track of who's won D6 that we like to run, the 4-year-old sprinters. Not really sure, like Triple Crown, something to do with Hex, I don't know, the sextuple crown. I don't feel it kind of fits really well, but there we go. So that's 25th, and this is the one that's kind of already in the schedule anyway, but Pegasus World Cup. There have been no previous runners, but there still should be prep races and stuff for it, so I'm not sure why it's not showing up there. I wonder if I go to February, which is my next meeting anyway, but if I look at the World Cup, yeah, that's going to go to the Dubai World Cup and then back in to the Pegasus. So just because the Pegasus hasn't been built, it's kind of weird the way around that's linked, but at least they are linked. I'm actually going to go back in and just make sure that they're linked correctly off camera, just to make sure before we do the 10 to make sure the Pegasus leads into the Saudi, which leads into Dubai, rather than Saudi leading into Dubai, which then leads into Pegasus, which is what it feels like right now. With that being said, we can just pick up here on the Saudi Sprint. And then that takes us to the Takakinen. That takes us to the Sprint Prize. That takes us to the Diamond Jubilee. That takes us, should take us to the Hong Kong Sprint. And it doesn't. So I need to go back and do Everest, Hong Kong Sprint, Diamond Jubilee. I need to make sure that's linked. I need to make sure these are linked properly. So the last 3 sprints and the 4-Year-Old World Cup. The rest are all okay. Absolutely fine. And then March 28th for the Shima Classic, which leads into the King George, leads into the Arc, leads into... It doesn't lead into the Japan Cup, the Hong Kong Viz, or the Arima Kinen. So this might be a syntax error. It might be where it's tried to put a prep race and it hasn't really worked out that way. But again, it's all these second, this second, this second. This was actually set up correctly though, so I'm not entirely sure. So it's not going to be feature races. It's going to be the schedules again. Export schedules to done. And so, yeah, we're going to take a look at the preps. So now we're doing manual preps. Takamatsu and Kienen. You can see the Saudi Sprint is listed there. If I find next, it should find the Saudi Sprint. That takes us to the Golden Shaheen. It should also take us to... Why am I looking for Saudi Sprint? Oh, yes, because that was it. Yeah. So Takakinen. So the Chairman Sprint Prize has the Kinen as its prep, which is fine. The prep for that should be the Diamond Jubilee. The Diamond Jubilee goes into the Turf Sprint. It should also go in. Nope, that's not what I wanted. It's selecting that, that's why. Diamond Jubilee should go into the Hong Kong Sprint. And it's not showing up that way. And then the Hong Kong Sprint. Wow. Should flow into the Everest. Okay. So I've done things right. It's not linking those properly for some reason. Pegasus World Cup. And the Breeders' Cup feeds into those. The Saudi World Cup. Preps from Pegasus. And the Dubai World Cup preps from Saudi. So that's all okay. So the Arc de Triomphe preps from King George as it should. And then it's a prep for the Breeders' Cup Turf, but also the one that we're most importantly looking for is the Japan Cup. That'll prep for the Hong Kong Viz. And the Hong Kong Viz will prep for the Arima Keenan. Okay, so we have got them all set up correctly. So that's fine. It's just not displaying in game fully correctly, which is okay. And that at least gives me confidence to know what we're doing here. So yeah, so this is just going to be OM3. So we started from here. We went to here. We went to here. We ended up here. That's going to go in. And then we're going to rename this to oof. Because Army USA flat. That's kind of what we're doing. And I think that's all good. So I will be going and testing for a 10 season thing, but I'm pretty sure they're all going to be okay. And I think I want it in this slot. I don't think there's anything in there that I want to keep. So we can clean slot 7, and that'll have a new jump saver in Britain in slot 8, the new American flat in slot 7, and that means all my testing and breeding saves then can start from the top down. So start it. I need to rename the folders. We need to rename the folders. Let me get out of that. Edit in the schedules. X, and thankfully it is easy to check. But yeah. So now I'm going to start up the 10 years, but that's basically it. That's the editing by manual cases of the feature race. Kind of where to find them, what they kind of look like, a little bit about them. We'll dive in, as I say, more depth on that. Manual schedule editing, little testing, iterations of all the prep races, linking everything together as well. So yeah, man, pretty interesting. But we're going to auto this year. I'm going to get rid of the form cards because I don't really care about the form cards too much. And yeah, replays for 5 years is fine. A new schedule. And if there's any issues, then it might be too late to do anything about that. But I'm going to set this up, and I'll see you next time. In the meantime, thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Take care. Stay safe. All the best to you. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out the other playlists. And check out the memberships on the channel. And I'll see you next time, guys.